What's good, everybody? This is Fern, aka Fina Oraya, author of Before 7:30 Practical Ways to Empower Yourself and Save Your Relationship Before Giving Up. This is like the seventh or maybe eighth time I try to record this video and I keep getting distracted. Not sure what's up, but anyway, I think this will be a two-part video because I have so much to say and I really don't want it to be that long. Please comment down below and tell me how you've been feeling about everything that's been going on, or just tell me how life is treating you whenever you happen to be watching this video. Now, no doubt, this is another critical time as we continue to evolve on this planet. The fire energy, if you know anything about that, has been at work these last couple of weeks. I mean, been at work strong. And to understand what I mean, look at how busy it's been all around the world. In case you haven't heard, read the coronavirus. We now have more than 200 million cases in the US and more than 115,000 deaths. Some of you might have heard about the swarms of desert locusts in India, the worst locust invasion in 30 years. And a few of you might have heard about the rare but deadly mosquito-borne illness called the Triple E virus, which kills at least 33% of those infected, or survivors often can suffer permanent neurological impairment. That virus is on the rise in the Northeast US. And then we have the usual everyday madness, which doesn't stop because, well, life goes on. But let's talk a little bit more about these protests from around the world. I'm not here to talk about the infiltrators nor the looters who always find their way in somebody's business. There's always that one. I don't think we can stop people who have a different agenda or ulterior motive from showing up. It just is what it is. Anyway, I had to do another video because I can't stay quiet about these world events. I'll include the link to my last video in the description. If you haven't watched it, please do so. And guess what? If you've already seen it, in that video, I told you guys about a powerful sleeping giant that hasn't woken up. Right now, even with all that you're seeing out there or that you've seen out there, it's still the smaller sleeping giants that are stirring up, demanding systematic changes that are meaningful and realistic, demanding an end to the systematic exploitation, social and economic marginalization, oppression, and degradation of our brothers, sisters, and cousins. Whenever we talk about these things, someone will say or think, but so many other groups of people have been discriminated against. And that's true, but I'm specifically talking about the one group of people that continues to get murdered and treated unfairly, and this has been going on for centuries. And don't pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about. I know I'm putting myself out there by making these videos, but I have people, who look just like these people who are getting murdered. You know what I mean? I look like some of those people who are getting murdered. So I can't continue to see what I've been seeing without speaking up. I'm not here to be liked by you if you are a racist. I'm here to say that Terra, Mother Nature, and even the big and powerful sleeping giant that I keep referring to is watching you. And you'll know when she's fully awake. And I don't think that's something that any of us want. But if we don't get our act together, that's exactly what will happen. So before I really dive in, shout out to every one of you watching this video or hearing the sound of my voice who no longer thinks nor acts like your racist ancestors. But even though you want a better world than what your ancestors left, we still have a lot of your ancestors' energy out there. And that's what makes it so hard for us to not be where we are today, because that energy still lingers. So let's go. First, a disclaimer. What I'm about to say might sting a few people. That's if you haven't already felt stung, but we must deal with some hard and uncomfortable truths. Now, a couple of recent major events pertaining to the George Floyd situation. I saw that the Minneapolis City Council talked about dismantling the police department and replacing it with a community-led safety system. The Minneapolis police chief has also announced that the department would withdraw from police union contract negotiations as they work on reforming the agency. So as you can see, I'm still talking about police brutality, George Floyd, and so many other past victims. Now, are these recent events just distractions? Well, time will tell. But we can flip the script We don't have to continue to be anyone's pawn because, well, we know our value. The protest over the death of George Floyd and the deaths of so many other black men and women whose lives were cut short have obviously gone global. Even though George was buried on Tuesday, June 9th in Houston, Texas, the fight continues. On Monday, that former police officer who didn't see nor treated George as a grown-ass man, his bail was set at $1.25 million without conditions or $1 million with conditions. Now, if you've been keeping up with all of this, you've seen that there has been protests in several cities in the U.S. Some of you might have participated, and in countries such as Canada, Japan, Australia, the UK, Ireland, Berlin, France, Denmark, Sweden, and Germany. Hey, I might be missing a few countries, but you get the point. Seeing the images of these protests actually reminded me of the civil rights movement era all over again. So this is serious. The fire is getting hotter, the flame is rising higher and higher, and people are not playing. You know, everyone is probably wondering, where will we go from here? Everyone's emotions are running super high right now. People who would normally just go about their lives or keep silent, like my sweet mother, you know, they're either protesting and or speaking up because they're fed up and they've seen enough. You know, when they look and see what's been going on out there, they see themselves, you know, they see their relatives, they see their children. And I told you guys that the energy has shifted. So with all of these protests, do you see what I mean now about the energy shifting? Over the last couple of weeks, I've been receiving emails from many companies, big and small, as well as seen ads that talk about we stand against racism. But do you really? One ad that I saw on Craigslist even said, we're colorblind. Okay, whatever. You know, there's a part of me that feels like some of these companies are just exploiting the energy of the present. Like they have to say something to save themselves. But have these companies demonstrated that they're really about that? How is it that so many people are still complaining about racism and inequality at the workplace if these companies truly stand against racism? I just have some questions, that's all. For a very long time, I must be honest, for a very long time, I felt like protesting was a big waste of time. Why? Because it just seemed so silly to be walking around holding a sign. And because people would just go right back to the same old, same old. I mean, literally, just a few weeks ago, that's how I saw it. But today, I'm starting to look at it from a different angle. I'm starting to understand the importance of the people unifying, you know, coming together in solidarity and expressing themselves as a group or a movement. But as usual, I like to go a little deeper. In my opinion, I think protesting must be coupled with other significant actions. Protesting, again, to me, is much more powerful and meaningful when we all go home and we actually apply what it was that we were protesting about. If you're out there in the streets protesting against racism, you yourself can't go back home and be a racist. Just having one floating black friend so that you can say, but I even have a black friend, doesn't cut it. Just having a diversity department isn't enough. Just saying that you're an equal opportunity employment company without backing it up isn't enough. Joining the protest and hiding in plain sight is a coward move. If that's how we're going to do it, if that's how you're going to do it, then this race issue in the US and worldwide will persist. Racism is a global virus that must be dealt with in the most aggressive and serious way. And I don't mean being violent. But when you're dealing with something, when you're dealing with an energy, when you're dealing with a force, when you're dealing with a disease that can kill you, you're not just going to sit there. You're going to do what you have to do to get rid of it. You're going to do what you have to do to heal. You're going to do what you have to do to make some changes. You understand? But we must be careful that while we're fighting against racism, that we aren't a racist ourselves. Racism isn't only about the color of a person's skin. It's so much deeper than that. It's about jealousy. It's about power. It's about being delusional. It's a form of mental illness. It's about fooling oneself that one is what one is not. I know that there are no easy answers on how to end racism because it's been ingrained in our psyche, in our culture, in our enterprises, in our educational system, in our religious institutions, in our spiritual communities, and even in our DNA. So what can we do? Can we permanently eradicate racism? Like I said, there are no easy answers. And I don't sit here and pretend that I have all of the answers. That's why I can't say protesting is bad. At least these people are doing something about what they see that's unjust. But we all can do something. We all can help. In order to truly do our part, each one of us has a responsibility to check ourselves. How many of you are truly up to that task? Ending racism, or reducing racism to the point where it almost seems like it doesn't exist, is an individual action that will then manifest in the whole of humanity as we come together with a more compassionate heart and understanding that we may not look the same, we may not speak the same language, we may not have the same belief systems. We are here at the same time, surviving, making sense of this life. Above all, we are human beings. But honestly, how I see it, the issue of racism is a true challenge. Because we'll always have one minority group that'll just be filling itself. And humans just love to rule over other humans. It's that ego. It's that power trip. However, we have a choice in how we respond. We don't have to feed it. We don't have to bow down to it. We don't have to give it our powers. What we need to do is re-educate ourselves because we've been fed so many lies and half-truths for so long. We need to correct the history books. We've been desensitized for too long. We need to do our own research and double check the sources. If you can't stand to be fair to people who don't look like you, then why should those people be fair to you since you don't look like them? You see, we've been divided for ages, inside and out. We've been bamboozled into believing fairy tales. We've been hoodwinked into hating our own reflections. Some of us even tried to run away from ourselves and who we are. We are not slaves. We are no one's doormat. We are not outcasts. We are not delinquents. We aren't porta potties. And while I'm saying that, and by the way, shout out to my distant relatives from all around the world. When you look at yourself in the mirror, see a worthy and powerful man or woman, boy or girl. Don't let anyone trick you into believing that you're worthless or that you're inferior. When I started to learn more about the sick history of the Americas, I said of the Americas, not just the USA. I often wondered why we still give so much of our power away. Why are we still being pressed down? I mean, it has to be, it's so deep that sometimes it doesn't make sense. What is it? Because normally, the only reason why that you would try to hold something down or that you would be against, let's say, another person is because there's some form of jealousy. That, I mean, it's something that's truly deep. Because if you're gonna try to rule over someone and have them be your workers because you think they can work harder than you. Like I said, these issues are so much deeper than the color of your skin. In the history book, they say that slavery has ended. But has it really? It just looked like we have a different type of slavery system today. Yet the prisoners still look the same. Police brutality and racial injustice are nothing new, like I said before. That's how we know that slavery never ended. But that system has partially metamorphosed into us seeing one thing when in reality it's something completely different. Those who are in the know. Most of us are still mentally enslaved. We're fighting with one another. We're hating on one another. And that's because we think it's only when we can visibly see the chains and shackles that's when we're enslaved. But that's a lie. Why should we have to ask for permission in order to be treated as a man or a woman who is truly free? And thank goodness right now that many are actually learning, studying, and rejecting the lies. Many are reconnecting with their lineage or curious to know of their ancestors. We must understand how we got here. A perfect example: Haiti, or Haiti, the first Black republic, won its independence in 1804. But look at how the world, including some of you who are protesting right now, including some of you who are asking for justice right now, including some of you who are fed up, who are angry because you see so many getting mistreated and murdered. Look at how you treat and talk about Haiti today. Most of you wouldn't be able to do what you do today if it weren't for Haiti, if it weren't for Haiti, as the Tainos called it, and that's a fact. Don't come in my comment sections talking crazy until you do your own research. Many of you are only thinking of your current status and privilege. The U.S., France, Spain, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Greece, just to name a few countries, wouldn't be what we know today if it weren't for those Haitian revolutionaries back in those hard days, back in those cruel times. But as proud as Haitians are, the people in Haiti are still enslaved. They're still mentally enslaved. Yes, they're still enslaved, but in a different way. And by the way, I'm coming for the Haitians later too. That's another video. Haitians just aren't wearing the visible chains around their necks and ankles anymore. But how different are things for them today than how they were back in the 1500s, back in the 1600s? Why do you think that the statue of Christopher Columbus at Byrd Park in Richmond, Virginia was thrown into Fountain Lake, and another one was beheaded in Boston on Tuesday evening? Many of you are waking up, and that's great. Many of you are just now waking up because for a very long time, we were just going about our lives, revering and celebrating the same sick people in groups that can't stand us. The same sick people in groups that can't stand us. This is not about hating other people. As a matter of fact, I have much love for my fellow human beings. But it doesn't mean that I have to allow you in my space if you are not about love. I don't need that energy around me. Now, if you want to learn, I can teach you what I know about love. But otherwise, step to the side. If you hate me, you should need me. And I sure as hell won't be naive and knock at your door to invite you over for dinner. Not at my house. And I'm not saying that because someone hates you that you have to hate them. But it also doesn't mean that you have to be kissing their feet either. Just to show them that's what love is about. Because some people, there's nothing that you can do about that. It just is what it is. But humans have a short-term memory. We forget how much even the best writers can lie. We quickly forget why we protested. We quickly become walking zombies again until another major incident. No disrespect intended, but again, it's just a hard truth. We must remember our past and learn from it. We must remember the indigenous people who were our ancestors. We must remember the prisoners, those who were taken as slaves. You hear that? We must remember the prisoners, those who were taken as slaves, who were later sold, branded, raped, beaten, mutilated, and lynched. We can't live in the past, but we shouldn't be repeating it either. What have we learned from the past? What have we learned from the past if we're still having to protest? Just so that a man or a woman can exercise their right to live or be judged according to due process, or even just to have a fair and unbiased criminal system. What have we learned from the past? And why are we still here? Why are we still having to protest for justice? Ask yourself these questions. Now look out for part 2 of this video. Please share, subscribe, and like. And I look forward to reading your comments down below. Until the next video, happy living.